You are watching The Horizon, the voice of the Amba woman, exclusively on ABC Amba TV.
Sovereign silhouette, the emblem of Ambazonia. From the azure embrace of the Atlantic reflecting from the Ambas Bay, the iconic Fako Mountain ascends with a silent, stoic grace, carving a silhouette against the sky. This towering sentinel is more than a geographical marvel. It is the heart of southern Cameroons, the stoic guardian of Ambazonia, a symbol steadfast as the unyielding spirit manifests in the unity of the land's 13th counties. Encircling this earthen spire, a dove of peace edges its arc, untouched and serene. As it soars with wings unfurled, it casts shadows upon the land, each feather a brushstroke of tranquility. Against the canvas of the heavens, 13 stars glimmer, the celestial acknowledgement of each county's shared dreams and harmonious virtues. The dove, in its eternal flight, is not merely a bird, but an embodiment of the collective longing for a peaceful existence under a shared identity. Beneath the mountain top, firmly grounded in the richness of the earth, twin elephant tusks rise as natural monuments. Their arcs, regal and commanding, capture the noble essence of the land spirit animals. This emblem, this seal of Ambazonia, is no mere insignia. It is the beacon that illuminates the path to shared prosperity. It is an oasis of unity in a world parched by discord, a visual whisper of a nation's promise, echoing across generations. Every curve, every symbol within the emblem tells the story of Southern Cameroons, an epic scripted by the enduring strength and unity of its communities, each page imbued with the hopes and enduring spirit of its people. Sovereign silhouette, the emblem of Ambazonia.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're watching ABC Amba TV across the world. Greetings to you all. Welcome to The Horizon, the voice of the Amba woman. I want to start by apologizing for the gross delay to start this program. But as you join us, please share, invite others to join us and watch this program as we discuss the current affairs of the revolution, the Amazonian Freedom Quest. Today, I will be joined by the one and only Barrister Ghana, who will join me as we discuss the recent events regarding the restoration fighter, and we also discuss some social issues in misplacement of our flag, and we'll further talk on other affairs concerning the revolution and the upcoming lockdown. So please stay tuned, participate, comment, and share your views as we discuss the current events of the revolution. Barrister Ghana, you are welcome to the Horizon.
Thank you, my dear esteemed comrade. Great job you're doing. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to serve our people. Greetings to all Ambazonians from all corners of the world. Greetings to all Ambazonians on the home front. Greetings to all freedom seekers. Greetings to all the forces of the Ambazonian State Army who are doing their best to ensure that we restore our sovereignty and who are doing their best to ensure that we defend our people. Again, it's an honor to be here, and I look forward to an uplifting conversation.
Oh, thank you. And yes, we are going to have certainly an uplifting and spirit-filled and inspiring conversation as we continue in our quest for freedom. And this conversation, we would like to take it straight to the point. And today we have a very, very brief program. So don't miss it. It's a packed, short program today. So we'll go straight to the point. Barrister Ghana, you know the main arms, I'll choose to call it, of main tools of the revolution is the diplomacy, the Amazonian restoration forces, so the fight on the ground and resource mobilization. These are some of the parts of that form the pillars of our quest so far, and we have seen the recent events that happened in our restoration fighters. Uh, I'll just take to start off the conversation. Um, what do you think all Amazonians, both in the diaspora and those at the home front, should prioritize at this current stage of our freedom quest?
Thank you very much for that very articulated question that you asked. We've been in this revolution for about uh, over 60 years, about 63, 64 years, since our independence was given by the United Nations, and our independence or our sovereignty was stolen, or the attempt was made to steal our sovereignty by French Cameroon working in cahoots with France. So we've been in this revolution for quite a while, and we've been in an armed conflict for about 7 years, since 2017. And so, what is the priority for now? Again, my condolence to all of us, and to all those specifically who have lost cousins, who've lost brothers, because we know French Cameroon and its brutal genocidal army has killed over 50,000 of our people, has burned over 400 villages, has maimed, distorted lives. There are over 1 million displaced people from the southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonia. And so, what is the priority for now? We've lost so many people. Our restoration forces, or forces of our state army, have given their best. They've sacrificed their lives. Our priority should be to continue maintaining self-defense on the ground, and to enhance diplomacy, and foster the recognition of Ambazonia as one of Africa's states, and also to regain our sovereignty. So, priorities: sustain the ground campaign to defend our people, and two, foster diplomacy to speed up the process of reclaiming our sovereignty.
Wow, that is a well put and simply articulated response. And I'm just hoping all those who are watching us are gaining from this, because I just love how you categorize the priorities and how you place them. And yes, we must simultaneously, or in multifacetedly, face our freedom quest, our home front, and in the diaspora. And thank you so much for that great response. As we move on to the next thing, focusing on the home front, and continuing in self-defense. We've lost a fighter recently, and we saw some of the videos that has been going around on social media, um, showing what has happened to this fighter that we lost recently. You mentioned we've been in armed conflict for the past 7 years, and we've lost a lot of restoration fighters, as much as civilians, during this period. I just want you to throw your, mind to, as they focus on self-defense, any suggestion or anything that those at the home front, the Amazonian soldiers, those, um, all of them either carrying gun or just a fighter at heart, what security considerations should they take to maintain that self-defense and protect their own safety for the length of the freedom quest?
Uh, Before I answer your question, I must try to be specific about which fighter you're talking about. Which fighter are you talking about that we lost, and specifically where did we lose this fighter? I'm going to turn the
I'm
tables
talking
around
about big,
the interviewer now.
yeah, I know that's fine. It's a conversation, like you said, we are having a discussion. So it's
Correct.
known as big number, or EFAN, if I
Okay.
get that correct. Yes.
All right. We're talking about the fighter. I just wanted to be specific because you said
Yes.
we have lost, and you know I'm a lawyer, so I listen to words very carefully. When you say
Mm-hmm.
we, the Amazonian state did not lose a fighter.
Okay.
I'm a child of Mogamo. I grew up in Mogamo. I went to primary schools, both in primary school Buka and in primary school Wumukan. So I'm a child who grew up in the village, and I understand the terrain in Mogamo. I'm also the local, the LGA chairman of Mogamo. I am in
Mm-hmm.
contact with the fighters. I understand the missions they are carrying. And I know the fighters that are fighting for our liberation. I just want to state for the record that
Okay.
the fighter known as Big Number, or they called him General Efang, was not
Mm-hmm.
fighting for the liberation of Ambazonia. I want to make that clear. He was a fighter in his own regard, not our fighter. Our fighters are fighters who understand the mission, are fighting to liberate the state of Ambazonia, are fighting to defend the population. Big Number, who was within the ADF, was not fighting to liberate Ambazonia, was not fighting to defend the people of Mogamo. Efang was an oppressor of the people of Mogamo. Efang was somebody who he and his collaborators, his brutal, unscrupulous, and vagabond collaborators, abused the people of Mogamo, executed people of our LGA, decimated palaces of our LGA, working with the ADF. They were not fighting to liberate Ambazonia. So something happened with Efang. Efang also and the ADF in Mogamo, and I'm saying this from first-hand evidence, had been collaborating with our oppressors, had been collaborating with the Cameroonian army. They had their games going on. So yes, a fighter was, something happened with the fighter. Right now, I don't even know if he was lost, because I don't know if he's dead. I saw some pictures of him being taken from a hospital, how he moved from Mogamo right up to Bingo in Banso, only God knows. But these games, I've been in the LGA for quite some time. I understand what is going on. The Cameroonian army had been collaborating with the LGA, Fighters, real fighters, have given first-hand experiences of the Cameroonian army dropping arms with the for the ADF. So the ADF in Mogamo was not fighting to liberate Ambazonia. The ADF in Mogamo was extorting people, kidnapping people for ransom, raping, doing all types of heinous crimes. And the leader of the ADF himself, Cho Ayaba, was collaborating with them. If you listen to his utterances, if you listen to his speeches, he's talking about how Mogamo people are going to be forced to pay taxes. If you listen to his latest utterance, I'm sorry you asked me a brief question, but I just want to take this opportunity.
Yeah, that's fine. Carry on. It's a very relevant information.
To his latest baseless, pompous, groundless utterance, he's talking about erasing a Mogamo village from the map of Ambazonia. Who is he to offer such utterances? And so the people who were listening to him, the people who chose Ayaba, and those are war crimes, and those are crimes that can be prosecuted. Those are war crimes. The people who were listening to him, Efang being his lead attack dog, his lead oppressor dog in Mogamo, the people who were listening to him were there to oppress the people of Mogamo, not to liberate the people of Ambazonia. I just want to make that clear.
Okay, that is really useful and relevant. And I was just talking about what our fighters can do to maintain security. And going with what you have explained, and I have also experienced a similar situation in Meme. And so the whole story is it's so familiar, and that I've had similar experience with fighters in Meme. So this is what we have been dealing with. We've had forces planted. We've had arms group planted by La Republic, sponsored by La Republic's politicians and Anglophiles elites to disrupt and destroy the activities of our restoration fighters. And this is the sad reality across Amazonia. It's not only in Mogamo. We face that same challenge across the territory. And kudos to our restoration fighters who have stood the internal and external challenges to still maintain their focus up until this point. And this explanation you have just given, and I just want to call the attention to all of those watching that this level of consciousness is required for all Ambazonians to know that it's not everyone posing in the name of Ambazonian fighter is a part of the state army. It is not everyone. The people who are Ambazonians, a part of Ambazonian state army, will not oppress the people, will not force the people who are already going through a lot of torture, a lot of brutality by French army and French forces and French people to add more pain to our people. Our restoration forces will never be part of such activities. And this is why we need information of any group or people who are in are carrying on such activities to continuously to join La Republic to torture, torment, and oppress our people. Thank you so much, Barrister Ghana.
Yes.
And now to get to the carry on.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, just I wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. I just want to bring clarity because we are in an era where people have short memories. And I just want to highlight something. When this revolution started, there was the mantra that this is a God-ordained revolution. And whoever has the alliances with the enemy in a God-ordained revolution will eventually pay the price. I just want to highlight some of big numbers, the alliances. You have to remember that about 2 years ago or so, it was big numbers efforts working with the Cameroonian army that led to the death of a very, very brave fighter of the Ambazonian State Army, General Chacha. It
Yep.
was Big Number who traveled with forces from Mogamo to that area, the Ketunja area, and drew Chacha out. And I'm an expert in telecommunications technology. And I'm an expert in listening devices. And when Big Number did that, traveled and drew out Chacha, what I said was that they should warn Chacha. Because the Cameroonian army, as we knew, had been and continues to use telecommunications technology to track our fighters. They continue to use the means to know the cell phones that our fighters are using. If they know the cell phones and they can track down their MAC address, then they can track their movements. And then they can corner them by surprise and kill them. And I would vouch that Big Number was working with the Cameroonian army to track, specifically in this case, to track the phone number of Chacha. And just within a week after Chacha had that interaction with Big Number, he was cornered and he was killed. Big Number tried to do the same thing with Grandpa of Bali. And when Big Number left with a lot of guns and traveled from Mogamo and was traveling through Bali, and that drew out Grandpa, and they brought drinks and everything, and they sat with Grandpa and drank and all of that. And when we saw that, I put out an audio and warned Grandpa that they already have the MAC address of his phone, and he needs to ditch that phone, because Big Number probably came to that scene with a listening device that can track the MAC addresses of the phones, and they'll pass that over to the Cameroonian army and to the French intelligence services, and they'll be able to use that MAC address now, tracking his phone number, to track his voice, to link it with that phone, and then they will know his locations wherever he is going, and they will be able to corner him by surprise and kill him. And Grandpa heeded to that advice and ditched that phone until to this day Grandpa is alive. Big Number also tried numerous times to draw out Commando, a lead fighter that we lost in Mogamo. And it was through warning and caution that we were able to prolong the life of Commando until the forces with the ADF, working with some elements in Mogamo, again came and sent Commando to an ill-fated mission where we still do not know how Commando died. And so the forces of La Republic had been using these surrogate ADF forces in Mogamo to locate, to track, and to kill our fighters. I just want to state that for the record, so that when people are shedding tears about a fighter having been lost, or a fighter being injured, or fighter being in the hands of La Republic, I just want to bring clarity about who this fighter is, who this fighter was, and the mayhem that this fighter created in the revolution.
Wow, thank you very much. Just quickly before you drop that thoughts, you've mentioned that you put out a couple of audios to warn some of our fighters to, prevent them from getting caught by La Republique. And, like I initially asked, besides, them being careful who they communicate with and how often they keep a number or where they use it and what, these other things you have mentioned so far. What are the things that our restoration fighters and those who are within the community who work with the restoration fighters, what what are the other precautionary measures they need to take to prevent them being caught up in La Republique's trap?
All right. So before I answer that question, Lady Casey, let me recap on how the armed conflict started, and it will give a pointer to what our fighters need to do.
Okay.
This armed conflict started when, again, the Cameroon government, acting on advice from the French embassy in Yaoundé, tried to push French-speaking teachers to be teaching in English-speaking schools. They tried to push French magistrates and judges trained in civil law to come and be adjudicating cases in common law based or common law jurisdiction courts in Ambazonia. And these are some of the things that caused our people to revolt, the consortium to be formed, and our people said, not now, not ever, it's gone too far, and we started the march to restore our sovereignty. Mao Zedong said something. He said, a fighter needs to move amongst its population just as a fish moves through water. And those are fighters of a guerrilla army. Let me repeat that what Mao said.
Yes.
Mao said, a guerrilla army, which is an unconventional army, which is what our defense forces are, need to move within the population just as a fish moves through water. And if a conventional army can move within its population just as a fish moves through water, then the conventional army and the oppressor has no chance. Which brings me back to your question. What do our restoration forces defending our people need to do or need to take as precautionary measures? The first thing consistent with this very brilliant thought from Mao is that, first of all, they need to be friendly to the local populations. We are there to defend the population. Again, going back to where this started, people do not remember. Some people who say, oh, this struggle should end, our people are suffering. They do not remember that the reason why the restoration forces rose was because the French army sent brutal genocidal killers to come and be killing our people. Mami Api, a child being thrown in a cauldron of hot water, hot oil in Widikum, Kendem. People being slaughtered from Boya to Kumba to Bamenda to Banso to Kambe to Manfe, resulting to over 50,000 of our people killed. So the reason why our restoration armies rose was to defend our people first, and two, to foster our goal of restoring our sovereignty. And the first defense of our restoration forces, and if you guys are listening, listen to me very carefully, because I've been working with restoration forces. The first defense of restoration forces is to defend the population, and their first measure of protection is to not oppress the population that they are defending, is to not extort, is to not kidnap, is to not abuse that power of the gun that they have against the population, because it is the population that is going to protect them. It is the population that is going to warn them when the brutal Cameroonian army is coming. It's the population that has their back. Now, if we have our forces, if we have some forces, some people are pretending to be our forces who are kidnapping, who are extorting, who are stopping drivers and extorting money, who are abusing our people, then they have given themselves up, because the population is not going to be able to protect them. If Big Number and his gang of fighters, or whoever you call them, had been working with the community, had not been oppressing the community, Big Number would not be dead. You have to remember that just about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, they executed two indigents of Guzang right there at the Guzang Market Square. You have to remember that they caused the death of the son of Iwai. You have to remember that they caused the death of the son of Ashon. You have to understand all the heinous crimes that they've been committing. How is your population going to protect you when you are causing such mayhem against them? So the first thing that they have to do is to work with the population and not be abusive towards the population, because it's the population first, the population of Ambazonia, that is going to protect them. I don't know if I answered your question. And let me add one thing. Let me add one more thing. A lot of people do not understand some of the details of Big Number's death. Big Number's death, or the precipitation of Big Number's death, started when they lured some members of the Ambazonian State Army in Mogamo to come do an oath with them. And when we heard of that, as leaders of the LGA, we said, and we put audios out there, that is wrong. Our restoration forces cannot go do an oath with a band of fighters and marauders who are not fighting to liberate Ambazonia. Subsequently, some of these fighters who thought that the ADF had good intent, and specifically amongst them, General Savior, went and joined the ADF, took some of their equipment, and went and joined the ADF. And again, we pointed out that that was calamity in the making. But the treatment that the ADF meted to some of these fighters, including General Savior, led to General Savior escaping from the ADF and going and joining the Cameroonian army. It was the consequences of that that eventually led to Big Numbers hideouts being revealed. So you see, it's directly as a result of the mistreatment that they meted out on the population that led to the death of Big Number. And when I hear Cho Ayaba talk about Mogamo, when I hear Cho Ayaba talk about erasing the EY palace, he does not understand Mogamo. That sort of errant pomposity does not fly in Mogamo. And tradition in Mogamo is very important. And as a child who grew up in the village, tradition in Mogamo is very popular. I mean, it's very important. When you turn against the people, we do not have to send Mogamo kids to come hunt for you. You will harvest what you've planted. And so Big Number, consistent with Mogamo tradition, and I know a lot of things that happened prior to his death that I cannot release on this forum. I know a lot of things that happened that I cannot speak of them on this forum. But he barely harvested what he planted. And to Cho Ayaba, all of those seeds that your fighters or people you think are your fighters are planting in Mogamo, let me caution you, you don't understand the tradition of Mogamo. They are going to harvest what they are planting. I assure you. In the audio I made about 2 months ago, I expressly said the ADF fighters will harvest what they are planting in Mogamo. And that harvesting is only starting. So again, the first defense of our fighters is our people. And as leaders of the struggle, we must continue to caution the fighters in all our LGA not to violate rules of war, not to violate the Geneva Convention, not to harass, oppress our own populations. It's a non-starter. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for that elaborate explanation. Thank you very, very much. And I would still like to add to what you have said. It cannot be overemphasized the importance that the population is the first layer of security. It's your first layer of protection. From what I also understand and know and have experienced is that most of those boys, those rebels who are oppressing our people, majority of them are planted by the Anglophiles elite to oppress our people so they will turn against the real restoration fighters and expose them to the French army. So this is the struggle of the people. And we should also know that is anybody who is posing as a fighter oppressing our people is definitely not fighting for the liberation of Ambazonia territory. This cannot be overemphasized. And other things like Barrister Ghana mentioned is how they use technology, particularly phones, how they use phone lines, how they are kept, and who they communicate with. That should be taken extremely seriously. So on that note, I would like to continue as Barrister Ghana has expressed so much, using example of his LGA. I think this should be replicated in all areas of the territory. Like I also mentioned that we've experienced similar situation in Meme and Dian, similar situation that have happened in that area, and this is not looking good on our people, because a lot of people in these areas that have been tortured, has been tormented by the so-called fighters, are now thinking La Republic army is better. And it cannot be overemphasized that these people, I know for certain, in Kake, Nake, those Bole areas, that there's a lot of boys that have been planted by the SCPDM elites from that area to torture our people. Anybody who respect goes down, anybody who follows Amazonian laws, to so that they will turn against the struggle. And this is why we all need to have a revolutionary mindset, that we have made a lot of sacrifice so far. We have lost far too much to listen to those people who think this thing should end. We cannot lose over 50,000 lives and just end things. If it was an American country with all the power they have, one American life anywhere, they're bombing that whole place. But that is to tell us that if we value ourselves and our people, we should know that this is the time to reinforce. This is the time to refocus. This is the time to gather our strength and push in any angle, in any situation, in every circumstances that we can, to see that we keep our progress moving forward, as we strive toward attaining our sovereignty and retaining our territory. Thank you so much, Barrister Ghana. And I also like us to quickly talk, on 11th February. It's coming up, and our people are going to be forced to see facade of so-called Youth Day. And the government have announced a lockdown from the 6th to the 13th, to so our people are not part of this, you know, um fakeness. The history around this February 11th February. What can you communicate to our people to remind them why it is very important for them not to insult themselves, by participating in this La Republique distraction known as 11th February?
Yeah. Again, as you rightly called it, it's a huge distraction to our people. It's a known event. Cameroon celebrates 11th February as the Youth Day. It celebrates 20th May as its National Day. The irony is that Cameroon is the only country in the world that does not celebrate its own day of independence, which is January 1st, 1960. Why? I think we all know why. Uh, and so our people should not be distracted. I remember in 1990, sitting in our living room in Bamenda, uh, while that's 11th February then, sitting in our living room. I was sitting close by my late father, and I had no interest of going out to the 11th February celebrations. At that time, I was just about 18, 19 years old. I had no interest of going there because I already knew it was fake. I always knew I always knew that it was a wool over our people's eyes. And and on that specific day, 11th February, I remember having a conversation with my late father, because on that same day, 11th February 1990, that was the day that Nelson Mandela was walking out of the prison in South Africa with clenched fist. And I turned and I told my dad that in about 10 years, South Africa is going to be free. South Africa is going to have democratic black rule. And my dad thought that that was pretty much far-fetched, and that the apartheid army has been there for over 100 years. Do I really think that they're going to give up power like that. Which brings it down to the situation of Ambazonia. We might think La Republique has been there for about 60 years, and they are not going to give up power, or they are not going to pack up and go. Let me tell you something, Lady Casey. Stolen goods are always crying to go back to their owners. Stolen goods are always crying to go back to their owners. And Ambazonia is a good or a commodity which belongs to the Ambazonian people, which French Cameroon has attempted to steal. They tried to steal our sovereignty in Fumban, but again, the crime scene was so bad. The crime scene was so littered with evidence of the attempted theft that they did not even have the mind or the composure to sign an agreement that could bind the Ambazonian people. So there is really nothing that binds us to French Cameroon. And whether you do 111th February celebrations, or you do 1,020th May celebrations, it will still not in any way or shape bind Ambazonia or bind the Southern Cameroons to French Cameroon. And our chains have already become unbound. Our chains became unbound when we opened our eyes in 2017 and took to the streets and declared the restoration of the state of the Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonia. And so the French Cameroon army and France, because French Cameroon is just a proxy of France, is going to try to do some things. It's going to try to stage some rallies. It's going to try to import people from maybe Bafoussam or Mbunda or someplace and have them march and take pictures to project a fake image of people celebrating it. But we just want to caution our people. Stay at home. Stay at peace. Don't go out there. Don't make yourself an unnecessary target. So, and make nothing of this day, 11th February, because it is just a non-starter when it comes to Ambazonia. Our true celebration is the 1st of October, which is our true day of independence from the UK. So thank you.
Wow, thank you for simply putting that. You know, you have really articulated in a most simplistic manner for every Amazonian to understand. And this thing we can never say it enough. Somebody will be in the comments saying, "Oh, we should go and fight La Republic. We should stop talking." Um, that's why countries like UK still have BBC, America have CNN and Fox News. Every nation have their national TV and they discuss their national affairs. And this is Amazonia, and we are talking about, and we have talked about something as vital as security measures for our restoration fighters. And we are talking about other social distraction by La Republic. They will bring their football, they will bring their wrestling, circus matches, and our people will forget that we are at war. At no point and at no point in time should any Ambazonia forget that we are at war. Forget about all those Anglophiles who are joining the circus of La Republique. We are not in time for circus, gather for any circus. This is time for war. And any Ambazonia who want to go about living in their own minds, not understanding the times. We have seen sad situations that have results in things like that. So, as we prepare to round up the show for today, as we're gearing up towards the final part of the show, Barrister Ghana, we saw, I think 2 days ago, where a TV station display our flag close to Cameroon as they were reporting on the AFCOM that is currently going on in Senegal. I mean, in Ivory Coast, sorry. We've seen that going on, and we've seen that the TV has come out to apologize to La Republique. What are your thoughts regarding that?
Divine encounters never conflict. Divine encounters never conflict. And that was just a divine encounter. But before I reflect on that, there's something I want to say. I want to go back to, and I know I'm taking us back. I want to go back
Yeah,
to
that's fine.
the issue of the ADF and big number. And I just want to
Mm-hmm.
give a historical colo rally across Africa. The way the ADF fighters have been operating, the way Big Number and his fighters have been operating, is similar. I'll give you about three rebel groups in Africa that operated just like the ADF did. The first example is the example of just Jonas Savimbi in Angola, who fought against the Angolan army, who allied himself with the apartheid regime in Africa to bring untold suffering to the people of southern Angola, just like the ADF brings to the people of Mogamo and to the people across Ambazonia. What was the result of Savimbi? He was finally cornered in the bush and killed. By who? By the Angolan army. And how did the Angolan army trace his location? Well, the UNITA, who were the forces of Savimbi, were working with the South African army and with the CIA. And it is said that it was the CIA who passed over his own coordinates to the Angolan army, who then cornered Savimbi in the bush and wasted him. I'll give you another example. We have the Lord's Resistance Army in Uganda that fought against the government of Museveni and brought untold suffering to the people of that area. What eventually happened? He was captured and he's now undergoing trial. I'll give you another example, the case of Charles Taylor of Liberia, who again, waging his senseless war, brought untold suffering to the people of Liberia. See, liberation armies bring hope. Liberation armies bring positive actions. Liberation armies, such as in Southern Sudan, where you had John Garang, who fought for the liberation of the South, defend the population and not bring oppression to the population. So I just wanted to import that historical relevance before moving to the item of this flag. And again, like I said, divine encounters never conflict. See, I don't know if you were a science student in O levels or you were an art student, but if you studied O-level literature, you surely read one of Shakespeare's novels called Macbeth. And Macbeth deals with a fighter who has egoistic desire for power and and overthrows the king, eventually, because and again it's prompted by the wife, Lady Macbeth, who prompts the husband to murder the king in order to seize power. And in that novel, we hear of these scenarios where the spiritual forces are talking about signs that you will see of things going wrong. And one of those signs is the forest moving. They talk about the forest in action. And we do not understand what they are talking about until we actually see the forest moving in that story, which brings us back to this issue of the Ambazonian flag being displayed in lieu of the Cameroonian flag. And there was somebody, I have to give credit to this prophet, Prophet Orok, who had prophesied, I think on the 18th of January, that there was going to be a press release regarding something on TV that will cause heads to scramble. And so there are a lot of signs. There are a lot of signs, ample signs that show that God had ordained the two Cameroons, not one. There are a lot of signs that demonstrate that UN Resolution 1608 XV and UN Resolution 1514 meant something. They spoke to the independence of the Southern Cameroons. They spoke to the independence of Ambazonia. There are a lot of signs that show that we were destined to be a separate nation. Because French Cameroon has had about 60 years to make things right. If they really believed that we're part of them, then they would have stuck to the federation that was contemplated. But for 60 years, they didn't. And just like the situation in Eritrea, we are marching straight to independence. So when you start seeing
Absolutely.
TV stations beginning to put the flag of Ambazonia in place of the flag of Cameroon, it is just reminding French Cameroon, it is just reminding France, it is just reminding the international community, it is just reassuring Ambazonians, it is just reassuring our fighters that the destiny of Ambazonia, the destiny of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia is close by than we really think. That at the regaining of our sovereignty and the establishment of our state amongst the state of nations in the world is very close by. So I don't see that as an accident. I see it as a divine sign, and divine encounters never conflict. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, thank you. You have said so much and said everything about this. But there's just something I'd like to add. So far, we have been part of La Republique, despite their oppression and their discrimination and everything. We have been the salt that have spiced them. We have been the source for many things for them. And for me, that is just is that's the significance of why anyone would think we the people of former British Southern Cameroons, now known as Ambazonia, we have been the reason why they are who they are. And they cannot deny that. So as Ambazonians, like you have said, there is hope. And our freedom, our restoration, our total liberation is closer than we think. And we have to keep the hope alive and we have to keep fighting until we are totally liberated from the claws of La République du Cameroon and their sponsors in Europe. Um, Barrister Ghana will be closing the show for today. And I want to thank all those who have been following and watching us. And I would just like to ask you to make your closing remark, what you like to say to Amazonia, or what you like to say about or round up on any everything we have talked about today. And as we round up the show, thank you.
Thank you, Lady Casey, and I want to thank you again for the very brilliant job that you're doing. I want to thank you immensely for the sacrificing that you're making in time, in mental commitment, the sacrifices you're making away from your own family, the sacrifices you're making away from your own personal endeavors to do shows like this, to pay attention to what is going on, to advance the cause of the restoration of the independence of Ambazonia. I also want to thank all our fighters on ground zero who are doing what is right to defend our people, who are doing what is right to maintain their presence in every LGA, to ensure that France and French Cameroon cannot send forces to just murder our people without a response. I want to again express my condolence to all Ambazonians who've lost fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers, cousins, relatives, friends over the past 7 years. But I want to affirm that freedom is truly coming. I want to underscore the fact that French Cameroon might think that it can play these games. French Cameroon can think that they can postpone or erase the independence of Ambazonia. Just like Tito in Yugoslavia thought that they could hold Croatia, Macedonia, and all of those other states under Yugoslavia, which I called Yugophalia. When you glue a state that does not belong into your own state, especially a state that has over 20% of the population of that presumed state, they eventually break apart. That was the case of Eritrea. That was the case of Sudan and Southern Sudan. That was the case of Namibia, that South Africa tried to attach to Namibia and it didn't work. What do we have again to underscore these examples? Is that the United Nations has spoken about these issues. The United Nations spoke as to the issue in Namibia. The United Nations spoke as to the issue in the Southern Sudan. And when you try to hold people down, when you try to hold people captive, you have to remember one thing. No human being exists as half free and half slave. No people, no nation of a people exists as half free and half slave. La République has attempted to keep us grounded in that abomination of a nation by enslaving us, by giving us crumbs, by trying to deny our independence, by trying to refute knowledge of the fact that we are an independent people, as underscored in the Treaty of Versailles that created two trust territories, French Cameroon and British Cameroons. As underscored by UN Resolution 1514 XV, that was passed on December 15th, 1960, that gave independence to all countries that were being held as colonies and all countries that were being held as trust territories. From UN Resolution 1514 XV, the Southern Cameroon should have gotten its independence outright. As was spoken in UN Resolution 1608, which in paragraph 5 details out the independence of the Southern Cameroons. That says for any federation to be contemplated and to be consummated, the two parties have to sit together and iron out the modalities of the new nation. A condition that was never met. A condition that speaks to the fact that the Southern Cameroons is an independent nation that has never been bound to French Cameroon in any way, shape, or form. So no amount of guns being brought in from French Cameroon, no amount of the projection of military power, no amount or number of celebrations of 11th February or 20th May in the Southern Cameroons, in Ambazonia, is going to bound us. And when you hold somebody down, that also means you are also down. French Cameroon has tried to hold Ambazonia down. And we see models in French Cameroon that are indicative of a failed state. We see journalists in French Cameroon being killed. We see them unable to replace a 90-year-old diaper-wearing underachiever of a dictator. We now see the Ambazonian flag being projected on global TV in place of that their bastardized unicolor flag. Freedom for Ambazonia is coming. Have no doubt. We have no other option. We have to continue to pursue the restoration of our sovereignty by all means necessary. And whether you are encouraged or you're discouraged, whether the events that are happening give you room for hope or give you room for concern, I want to implore on you. I want to encourage you. I want to inspire you to find means to keep supporting the interim government or the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia and to support what we are doing. Because we rose in response to the attempt by French Cameroon, aided by France, to erase the identity of the Southern Cameroons, of Ambazonia. But they underestimate us. And if you're listening to me, they underestimated you. They underestimated the fact that we are the people that we had been waiting for. They underestimated the fact that with a few dollars, with a few contributions, we could raise an army like Garibaldi in Italy that raised an army of 1,000 red shirts that contributed towards the liberation of the Italian peninsula. Just like Garibaldi liberated the Italian peninsula, the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, using the power of our forces to defend our sovereignty, to defend our people, and our diplomatic outreach is going to deliver the state of Ambazonia as Africa's newest state. So be encouraged, be inspired, rise up and stand up to take your place to contribute. Thank you very much, Lady Casey, for this time. Thank you to all our viewers for listening. Thank you to all our people who hold their head high and who contribute in every way possible to substantiate why they hold their head high. Thank you, Lady Casey.
Wow, wow, wow. Barrister Ghana, I have no words to express my gratitude and appreciation for taking out time in your busy schedule, delaying your journey just to share such depth of knowledge and wisdom and insights and guidance into our revolution, and to be such give us such word of hope, such word of encouragement, such inspiring talk with knowledge. We are not just hoping on empty air. We are hoping with knowledge, with understanding, with depth and wisdom. And all we need is the continuous willingness of Amazonians to fight for our complete and total liberation. As we continue to participate in every aspect of this struggle, every aspect of our liberation movement, as we continue to contribute towards the projects and efforts of the government of Amazonia, as we continue to believe and hope and inspire and motivate one another to keep the Amazonian dream alive. Thank you to all our viewers for joining us today on the Horizons. And I also thank our producers and technicians for making this show a possibility. And I want to also again thank the head of Women's Services, Mape, for her diligent work to ensuring that the voice of the Amba woman is on air. And once again, before I go, I would thank my very dear special guest of today, Barrister Ghana, who has made the show such a delightful and easy one, and an inspiring and motivating one today. Thank you so much, Barrister Ghana. Thank you for always creating the time to join us on the Horizon, and especially on every other program on ABC Amba TV. Thank you very much. And I will thank our viewers again. Until next week, Friday, I'll see you once again only on ABC Amba TV. Thank you. Join us next week, Friday, same time, 6 p.m. Amba time on the Horizon, the voice of the Amazonia woman. Bye bye for now.
Sovereign silhouette, the emblem of Amazonia. From the azure embrace of the Atlantic reflecting from the Amber's Bay, the iconic Fako Mountain ascends with a silent, stoic grace, carving a silhouette against the sky.